Welcome back to Fact Bloom Insights. Today we are exploring how the Great Fire of New York in 1835 contributed to the creation of Wall Street. In 1835, a fire erupted in Lower Manhattan. It burned for 5 days straight, destroying nearly 20 city blocks and left 2,000 people homeless. However, it also paved the way for the birthplace of American finance. But how? Let's find out. To understand why this fire led to the creation of Wall Street, we first need to understand what Wall Street was originally. When settlers first came to New Amsterdam in 1624, they saw a wall built by the Dutch West India Company around the settlement to protect it from the English. This wall ran along Broadway and was demolished sometime before the American Revolution. A new wall was then constructed during the war to protect the city from the British. This wall, however, was made of earth and was quickly abandoned when it was realized that a wooden one would be more effective. This earth wall was removed in 1795, but the wooden one remained until it was demolished in 1827. When this final wall was removed, merchants in the area began using the land as a pasture for their livestock. This is where the name Wall Street came from. It was not named after any financial transactions taking place there, as many people believe, but rather after the old wall that once stood on the site. This open space was then used for parades and processions, including the funeral of Alexander Hamilton. It wasn't until later that people started building on the street. And that brings us to 1835. On Sunday, July, a fire broke out in a bakery on the corner of Park Row and Church Street. By the time firefighters arrived, the building was fully engulfed, and the wind quickly spread the fire to nearby buildings. Unfortunately, the fire department only had one functioning engine at the time, and it took 10 hours to arrive due to traffic congestion. This led to the destruction of 850 buildings over the next 5 days. This area included 178 newly constructed buildings. It's made of brick, which were able to withstand the blaze for several hours, but ultimately succumbed to the flames. This fire was unprecedented for its size and the speed at which it spread. It's important to note that New York was densely populated with large amounts of combustible material, and most homes did not have firewalls, making the spread of a fire very easy. As historian Edwin Matthiessen wrote, "There was no street in New York where one could not set fire to 3 or 4 houses on either side with a single match." Adding to the severity of the situation, there was a severe drought, and residents and firefighters alike had to travel long distances to obtain water to fight the blaze. This lack of available water led to the deaths of 2 firefighters, who fell through the roof of a burning building while trying to access a water source. In total, 8 firefighters lost their lives battling the blaze. As the fire continued to spread, refugees fled to areas outside of the city. At one point, Governor Eric A. Livingston declared that the fire was spreading so rapidly, he feared that all of Manhattan might be destroyed. By the time the fire was extinguished, 25 city blocks were completely leveled, and about 1/8 of the city was destroyed. In terms of modern comparison, this would be equal to about 25 city blocks in downtown Chicago being wiped off the map. In response to the disaster, New Yorkers began to take action. Relief societies were established to assist the 2,000 displaced residents, and donations poured in from across the country. As people assessed the damage left behind, they began to come up with solutions to prevent another disaster of this magnitude. One such solution was to redesign the streets with wider spaces between buildings and to construct the buildings out of more fire-resistant materials. These measures were not implemented immediately, but when construction did resume, these ideas were put into practice. Another immediate impact of the fire was the establishment of the New York Fire Department. After seeing the previous department's inability to contain the fire, Mayor Philip Hone called for an overhaul of the entire system. The mayor organized the volunteer firefighters into a centrally controlled department, creating the first formal fire department in the United States. He also introduced the first hand-operated fire engine and the first chemical fire extinguisher to the city. All of this was done without raising taxes, leaving some to claim that the fire actually improved the quality of firefighting in the city. But perhaps the most significant impact of the fire was the restructuring of the insurance industry. Before the fire, insurance companies were generally hesitant to insure city property due to the high risk involved. The devastation caused by the fire, however, forced these companies to reevaluate their policies and develop new strategies for assessing and mitigating risk. They began surveying individual properties and factoring in elements such as the materials used in construction and the proximity to fire hydrants and fire companies. This led to the development of modern risk assessment techniques and eventually the creation of the Insurance Company of North America. It's now known as the Chubb Corporation, which is still in business today. In addition to reforming the insurance industry, the fire also played a major role in the creation of Wall Street as we know it today. Prior to the fire, Wall Street was primarily used as a grazing pasture for livestock. However, after the devastating blaze, the city's leaders began to see the potential of the street as a location for commercial and financial activities. The wide-open space that had been left behind by the fire was seen as an ideal location for new businesses, and Wall Street quickly became one of the city's most important commercial districts. Adding to this was the fact that the stock market had been in desperate need of a new location. It had previously been housed in a number of locations throughout the city, including the Merchants Exchange on Pine Street. But after the fire, this building was destroyed. Looking for a new home, the stock market found the perfect location on Wall Street. And just like that, the birthplace of American finance was established. Today, Wall Street is home to the New York Stock Exchange, the Federal Hall, where George Washington was inaugurated as the first president of the United States. And the iconic Wall Street Bull, a bronze sculpture that has come to symbolize the power and majesty of capitalism. Many other famous buildings can be found here as well, including 20 Exchange, which was once the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. Though the fire caused widespread destruction and hardship for the residents of New York City, it also served as a catalyst for positive change. The implementation of new building codes, the establishment of the New York Fire Department, and the rise of Wall Street as a financial district all stemmed from the devastation of the Great Fire of 1835. The fire also helped to shape the insurance industry and spurred economic growth in the city. In many ways, the fire was a defining moment in the history of New York City, and its impact can still be felt today. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode.